What if I told you that one of the most powerful civilizations in human history didn't fall in a single moment, but slowly unraveled over centuries? An empire that stretched from the misty hills of Britain to the deserts of North Africa. A civilization so vast that millions of people lived under its laws, spoke its language, and marched beneath its banners. And yet, it collapsed. Not because of one enemy, not because of one disaster, but because of a perfect storm of political chaos, economic strain, military overreach, and internal decay. This is the story of the rise and the fall of the Roman Empire. Before it was an empire, Rome was just a small settlement on the Italian peninsula. According to legend, it was founded in 753 BC by Romulus, who after a violent dispute with his twin brother Remus, became the city's first king. Myth aside, early Rome was nothing special. It was ruled by kings, influenced by neighboring civilizations like the Etruscans and Greeks, and constantly fighting for survival in a competitive region. But everything changed in 509 BC. The Romans overthrew their last king and established a republic. This wasn't just a political shift. It was a revolutionary idea. Power would no longer belong to one ruler. Instead, it would be shared among elected officials, the Senate, and the people, at least in theory. This structure would become the foundation for Rome's expansion. Rome didn't become powerful overnight. It grew through centuries of war, diplomacy, and adaptation. At first, Rome dominated its neighbors in central Italy. Then came the Punic Wars against Carthage, a powerful rival across the Mediterranean. These wars would define Rome's future. During the Punic Wars, especially against the brilliant general Hannibal, Rome was pushed to its limits. Hannibal famously crossed the Alps with war elephants, surprising Roman forces and winning devastating battles on Italian soil. But Rome refused to fall. Instead, it adapted. It raised new armies, improved tactics, and eventually destroyed Carthage entirely in 146 BCE, burning the city and salting the land in symbolic domination. From this moment on, Rome was no longer just a regional power. It was a Mediterranean superpower. Victory brought wealth. Wealth brought ambition, and ambition brought conflict. As Rome expanded, inequality grew. Generals became celebrities. Soldiers became loyal to their commanders more than the state. Political corruption increased. The Senate became divided between elites who wanted to preserve tradition and reformers who wanted change. Civil wars erupted. One of the most famous figures of this period was Julius Caesar, a brilliant general and politician. Caesar conquered Gaul and gained immense popularity, but his power alarmed the Senate. In 49 BCE, he crossed the Rubicon River, an act of war against Rome itself. Civil war followed. Caesar emerged victorious and declared himself dictator, but his reforms and concentration of power made him enemies. In 44 BCE, he was assassinated by senators hoping to restore the Republic. They were wrong. Instead of restoring order, Rome plunged into more civil wars. Eventually, Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, defeated his rivals and became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The Republic was dead. The empire had begun. Under Augustus, Rome transformed. He stabilized the empire, reformed taxation, expanded infrastructure, and brought peace after decades of war. This era became known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For about 200 years, Rome flourished. Roads connected distant provinces. Trade flowed across continents. Cities grew rich with architecture, baths, forums, and amphitheaters. Roman law became the backbone of governance. Latin spread widely. Engineers built aqueducts that carried fresh water across miles. The Colosseum hosted grand spectacles. At its peak, the Roman Empire controlled over 60 million people. To many, Rome seemed eternal, but beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Empires don't fall overnight. They weaken slowly. Rome's problems began with instability and leadership. Emperors were frequently assassinated, overthrown, or replaced by the military. Power became something to seize, not inherit. The economy also suffered. Inflation rose. Currency was devalued. Heavy taxation strained farmers and citizens alike. Meanwhile, Rome's vast borders became increasingly difficult to defend. Germanic tribes pressed from the north. Persian forces challenged the east. The empire was simply too large to manage effectively. To cope, Emperor Diocletian split the empire into eastern and western halves. It was a desperate attempt to preserve control, and it only delayed the inevitable. As Rome weakened internally, external threats grew stronger. Germanic tribes such as the Visigoths, Vandals, and Ostrogoths began pushing into Roman territory. These groups were not simply invaders. They were often displaced peoples, fleeing pressure from other migrating tribes. Rome's military, once unstoppable, was stretched thin. The empire increasingly relied on mercenaries, many of whom had no loyalty to Rome itself. At the same time, political corruption deepened. Emperors came and went rapidly. Some ruled for only months before being overthrown. The sense of unity that once defined Rome was fading. In 410 CE, something unthinkable happened. Rome itself was sacked. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, entered the city and looted it. It was the first time in nearly 800 years that Rome had fallen to a foreign enemy. The psychological impact was enormous. But the final blow came in 476 CE. The last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was overthrown by the Germanic leader Odoacer. There was no dramatic final battle, no grand collapse in a single moment, just a quiet end. The Western Roman Empire was gone. While the West fell, the Eastern Roman Empire survived. Centered in Constantinople, it became known as the Byzantine Empire. It preserved Roman law, culture, and administration for nearly 1,000 more years. In many ways, Rome did not truly die in 476. It transformed. But the western half, the classical Roman world of Julius Caesar, Augustus, and the Colosseum, was gone forever. Historians still debate the exact causes of Rome's collapse, but most agree it was not one single reason. Instead, it was a combination of political instability and corruption, economic decline and inflation, over-reliance on foreign mercenaries, military overstretch, internal division, and external invasions. Rome didn't fall because it was weak. It fell because it became too complex to sustain. The story of Rome is not just ancient history. It is a warning. Even the greatest civilizations are not permanent. Power can grow too large to control. Systems can become too complex to manage. Unity can erode from within, long before enemies strike from outside. Rome rose from a small village to an empire that shaped the world. And then, slowly, it collapsed under its own weight. The question is not just how Rome fell. It is whether we are learning from it. If you enjoyed this journey through the rise and fall of one of history's greatest empires, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Rise and Ruin, because every civilization has a story. There's a lot more history waiting to be uncovered, and you won't want to miss what rises next.